Peace, peace, peace. What's good, family? This is your boy Solomon on Solar Vision Debate League. I am here live with Yarah bin Nazareth and Ausar M. Kai. So when you come in the building, hit the like button, when you come in the building, family. This is the Solar Vision Debate League, man. Ausar M. Kai is in the building. So is Yarah bin Nazareth. They're about to get it in and drop their information. Very interesting topic tonight. YHWH or Amin Ra, which is the true God. We're going to find out tonight who the true God is, family. So get your pens and pads ready because this should be a very interesting dialogue. And I'm going to keep this very short because this is actually going to be, hopefully, a memo for the radio show. So we're going to get right into this thing. Without further ado, we're going to introduce the debaters. What's going on? Ausar M. Ka. What's good with you, family?
ETEM Hitap Seni Senet Ankwas Tejad Uncle Jaseneb Dua Henu family for listening. It's your brother Ausar M. Ka. Don't forget to check www.praisethedivine.org. We're here to debate tonight. Somebody asked me, somebody told me YHWH is the real God and he's the one that should be worshipped, and I said it was Amin Ra, and so we're here now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Yarah bin Nazareth, what's good with your family?
Man, Shabbat Shalom to the family. Shout out to you, Solomon. Shout out to brother Ausar, I believe it is. If it's just not it, please forgive me. Hey, man, listen. Yah is the Lord of all. He is the God of everything, man. And we're going to prove this tonight. We're going to talk about this. We're going to show who's the mighty God. Is it Yahweh or is it Amin Ra? So we're going to see, man. We're going to watch the sunset tonight, man, during these next few minutes, bro. So we're going to get it in. Let's do this.
All right. So make sure y'all speak up loud and clear so everybody can hear you guys. We're going to let you know the format real quick. We're going to have a 15-minute premise for each debater, and then we're going to have a 7-minute rebuttal, and then we're going to get into a 15-minute rapid fire. So, without further ado, we're going to bring on Ausar M. Ka. We're going to go ahead and set this timer for 15 minutes, and brother, whenever you're ready, you can lay down your premise.
ETEM, I greet you all in peace. I think the brother he's hopping in last second as well. Originally supposed to debate, something happened. So shalom to the brother, and Hitap to the brother for stepping in. But without further ado, let's be real candid here. Di Hitap Nesu Nacharu Amin Ra Ankwas Tejed Anku Jasina. A peace offerings with just extend of Amin Ra at the end of the natural, all nature, all things in existence, Amin Ra. When we deal with
you're breaking up, bro. You're breaking up.
Am I breaking up?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you going from your phone, bro?
I'm trying to get on the phone now. Let me see if I can get on there now.
So I wanted you to go from the phone, brother.
I knew this was going to happen. I'm trying to join the video call now. It's not letting me in there.
All right, family, we'll give them some time before we get this thing started. Yeah, you should have just went from your phone. That's what I thought you was going to do.
It's not connecting. Any better now?
No, it's kind of breaking up. So you're not getting, you hit the link and it's not connecting from your phone?
Yeah, say trying to join the call. Then it just said I left the call. I didn't even get in the call. Try it again.
yeah, just to let you guys know, we're gonna be rocking out tomorrow. And let me take a glance at the schedule and see what's popping for Sunday. Sunday, we're going to have Orthodox Moore. He's going to be in the building going up against Gideon Israel. And the topic of that debate is going to be, is there a power above YHWH? So that should be a very interesting dialogue. They will be debating, I believe, on Wednesday as well. They will be debating on Wednesday as well. And is literal blood needed for salvation? We got Claim Your Inheritance going up against Nyame. That'll be this Monday. And we want to reschedule a debate between Sayyid Al-Mahdi and So Real. So we'll keep you posted on that one. So we'll just bring you on, Yarah bin Nazareth. Oh, so the brother's back. Were you able to get in from your phone, brother? Brother Ausar, are you there? Your mic is muted, bro. Ausar, can you hear me? Hold on, let me see what's up with this dude, man. You can't hear me on the hangout? You got your mic muted, bro.
It's not.
Yeah, I'm muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, bro.
Okay.
All right. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna start from the top.
And some, because I can't hear you guys at all, but you can hear me. You say. Let me go. I'm gonna go downstairs.
We can hear you. You can hear me?
I think it's the receiver. Go to my living room, huh?
All right.
Hold up one second.
All right. Well, we'll just let Yarah go ahead and set it off while you get your whole situation set up. Yarah, what's good with your family?
What's going on with you, Solar?
All right. Yeah.
Hey man, I'm tripping, man, because most of the afternoon, man, I had really been putting together a little work on.
Can y'all hear me a little better now?
I can hear you now.
You gotta take the one off because they both on at the same time.
Trying to cut this sound bar off too. Though, hold on one second.
That sounded a little better, bro.
I'm good. See, I'm good on this phone.
All right, so
But the reception is bad, so hold tight. Let me get over here so I can get busy. I had to come downstairs. Let me see, where's my... Cut that on. Okay, that. Cut this off. Let's plug in the computer. Let's get rid of this one here. All right. All right, we straight now. All right. Hello.
Yeah.
So listen to.
Yeah. So all right, family. So we'll start from the top. I'm gonna just start it off just to keep the thing running smoothly. Peace family, what's good, what's good? This is your boy Solar and this is SOLARVISION Debate League. I am live here with Ausar M. Ka and Yarah bin Nazareth. So when you come in the building, hit the like button when you come in the building, family. This is the SOLARVISION Debate League, man. Tonight, we're gonna have Ausar M. Ka and Yarah bin Nazareth. They're going to be breaking down a very interesting topic, YHWH, or Amen-Ra, which is the true God. So we'll hand it over to Ausar M. Ka, and then we'll hand it over to Yarah bin Nazareth. Who is the true God, YHWH or Amen-Ra? What's going on? Ausar M. Ka, what's good with you?
ETE Imitep family. Once again, Uncle the Jed, life, strength, and health. Life stability and strength. Uncle Johnson, Uncle the Jed. And like I said, shout out to my brother for taking the debate on short-term notice because the other brother happened to cancel out on us. So we appreciate him for stepping up. And shout out to the family for listening. Are
you talking? You breaking up again, bro?
Am I breaking up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, bro.
Okay. So we're starting the round, right?
Yeah, go ahead and start the round, bro.
Okay, because I thought we was just giving peace and so shalom to the brother. So yeah, once again, the topic is Yahweh versus Amen-Ra, who's the true God, or who's the true nature, if you will. Like I said before, let me make a declaration. When it comes to the King of Kings, when the ruler of rulers, when it comes what created you and brought you into existence, the undisputed champion is still nature, what we call nature. And the nature that does this is Amun-Ra in particular. So first, let me start with educating you on Amen-Ra. Some of you may know, down into three categories. First, Amun as a primordial, unique and self-created creator. Amen-Ra is a preserver of source of energy, or light, if you will, energy. And Amen-Ra as the ruler. Let's go first. Amun is a primordial, unique, and self-created creator. We say a lot of things concerning. We call him the primeval one of the beginning, unique in his kind, unique nature, unique one in the beginning. Divine nature, you say God, we say nature. Greatest of the great, ruler of rulers, self-created. He who created humankind and nature rule, who made the nature rule, who made what is and created what exists, who raised high the sky, builder who made every eye. So when we talk about different things in creation, different aspects of nature, each object you see in your universe, this comes from Amun-Ra. Next, we look at him as a source of energy. So we call him the living flame who came from the noon, the sharp, noble power who makes light, gives free passage, Lord of breath, who leads it to the nose. We call him the great Ah, the great soul. We call him the great Ka, the great spirit. And ruler, we call him Lord of the double plums, beautiful of face with the double plums, handsome of face with the diadem and plums, perfect of form, high with diadem, great nature of the great throne, ruler of the natural, ruler, king of eternity, Lord of everlasting, king of the pet, we call that the heaven, ruler of the two lands, king of the two lands, ruler, call that Heliopolis. That's a place in Egypt. Universal Lord who speaks, and what is to happen happens. So when he speaks, it comes to pass. It's going to happen. A good burial of his command into the earth command. So you have an idea of what Amun-Ra is about. The epithet has hidden, so we also call him the hidden one, because you generally can't see what's happening in nature. Thing that's happening in nature, can they? They have a lot of questions about things. 4.7% of you, but Amun-Ra tells you he begets all. Oh, Yahweh doesn't beget anything but Yeshua, supposedly. And that's a problem, because your whole universe begets. So if you have a God who doesn't beget, or a nature who doesn't beget, or an doesn't beget some other nature, or a mother who doesn't bring a child into existence, or a father who can't procreate with his wife, things of this nature, photosynthesis, you can't have a God of that nature, because it doesn't exist. It's fake. Exist. Clear. We go to the coffin text in the 132, second 154. It's my back, call it the earth. He who will judge in the company with him whose name is hidden. Whose name is hidden? We call that Amun-Ra. Amun means hidden, one, unseen, and it also means other epithets. But in this nature, we call him the hidden. Coffin text 147, second 207. It says, have judgment with him whose name is hidden. So he's acting as a judge. Coffin text 148, 22, having passed by the enclosure of his hidden. Coffin text 148, second 221. Falcon, my son Heru, land of your father Ausar, and this your name, a falcon, who is on the enclosure of him whose name is hidden. It's because all things are inside of Amun-Ra. We'll get to that later. Coffin text 148, second 223. It says, see Heru, you Netcheru, I am Heru, the falcon, who is on the enclosure, he's inside of him whose name is hidden. Everything is inside of Amun-Ra. Text 6, 310. And he says, sword as the great falcon, which is on the enclosure of him whose name is belongs yonder to him who separated the sky from the earth and the noon. We call the universe the noon. We call the earth Geb. In the coffin text, the actual name Amun appears in Ombel, entitled Words Spoken by Him whose names are secret, the Lord of all. We say Neb Er Chair for the Lord of all. And the reason it doesn't appear as much is because it's a sacred name. It's a sacred name. And combined with the above mentioned epithets, after a long description of the excellent powers of the Lord of all, the text says this. It says, I am he, and this name, make way for me, that I may see Noon and Amun, who passes by the guards. They do not speak for fear of him whose name is hidden, who is in my body. I know him. I do not ignore him. I'm effective in opening his portal. Coffin text 8:469. Amun is with us. Anyway, even a fictitious story. It says, it is your Ka, O good, the two lands in which Mantura, Lord of Thebes, Moon, Lord of the thrones of the two lands. Okay? Just so you know, just so you understand who Amen is. Let's get into a hymn to Amen Ra, so you really understand our feeling for the Lord of all things. It says, self-made, you fashioned your body, creator, uncreated. Soul who traverses eternity, year. Your splendor is like heaven's splendor, your color brighter than its hues. When you cross the sky, all faces see you. When you set, you are hidden from their sight. You're just selling under your majesty. In a brief day, you race a course, hundreds, thousands of miles. A moment is each day to you. It is past when you go down. The hours of night. You ordered it with pause, the labor. All I see, they lack any sets. When you stir at rise at dawn, your brightness opens the eyes of the herds. When you set in the western mountain, they sleep as in a state of death. I bet all this sounds like stuff that came from your Bible. That's the hymn from Suti and Heru. That's where you get it from. British Museum, 826. They stole it from us. Anyway, it goes further into other hymns. It says, you find him who transgress against you. Woe to him who assails you. The city endures, but he who assails you. So it says, fusses against you in every land. The son of him who knows you not goes down. Oh, Amen. But our brothers said today, but that doesn't happen with Amen Ra. Knows you, he shines. The forecourt of him who assails you is in darkness, but the whole earth is in light. Whosoever puts you in his heart, oh, Amen, lo, his sun dawns. It could never go down. That's the Astrakhan. That's from Astrakhan. In the British Museum, they stole that from us. Here's another one. It says, praise given to Amen. I make hymns in his to him praise to the height of heaven and the breadth of the earth. I tell his might to him who sails downstream and to him who sails upstream. Beware of him. Repeat it to son and daughter, to great and small. Herald him to the generations not yet born. Herald him to the fishes in the deep and the birds in the sky. Repeat it to him who knows it not. And to him who knows, beware of him. Do not disrespect Amen Ra. The brother on the phone just did it today. He didn't know. He didn't know better. You are Amen, the Lord of the silent, who comes at the cry of the poor. When I call to you in my distress, you come to rescue me. Give breath to him who is wretched. Rescue me from bondage. You are Amen Ra, Lord of Thebes, who rescues him who is in the Dua. You call that hell. We don't call it hell. For you are he who is merciful. When one appeals to you, you are he who comes from afar. It's the Stella of Nebra. You can even go to the Greeks and you can look in the Greeks' transactions with us. The Greeks' information from us. We call them our children. Even in Hermes, in the corpus between 100 and 300 BC, we can find this. It says he is the God too great to have a name. He's too great to have the inapparent, and he is the very apparent. He who the intellect contemplates. He is all the eyes. He is the intercorporal, the multiform, better still, the omniform. Nothing exists which he is not. For everything that exists, everything is him. For that comes that he has all names. For all things come forth from this unique. From that comes he has no name at all. For he is the father of all things. This is what they say about Amen. Let's talk about what Plutarch stated. Now I'm going to ask this. Just say, he says this, he says, moreover, most people believe that Amun is the name given to Zeus in the land of the Egyptians. So Zeus stole his name. It's a name which we, with the slight alteration, pronounce Amun. But Manetho of Semneptius thinks that the meaning concealed or concealment lies in this word. A Hecataceus of adumbrations, however, says that the Egyptians used this expression one to another when they called to anyone. So everything is Amun-Ra. So you should see God in your brother, your sister, nature, stand in nature. For the word is a form of address. Address the supreme believed to be the same as the universe, as if he were invisible and concealed him to the moon. So great then was the circumspection of the Egyptians and their wisdom touching all that had to do with the gods. So now you understand means and how it unfolds and how you should picture this. But let's go even deeper to finish this off before I even touch on the foreign God, the Yah. Laid in Papyrus 350, chapter 80, it says, the 8 were your first manifestation until you completed these, you being single. Secret was your body among the elders, and you kept yourself hidden as Amun at the head of the Netcharu. It says, you made your manifestation in Tatanin to accompany the primeval ones in your first primeval time. So Majani and cosmology, it's talking about the beginnings of the universe. It says your beauty arose as the bull of his mother. He's the spirit inside of you. It says, you return in fathers, makers of their sons, to make an excellent heritage for your children. This is how your Jesus came about. It says you began manifestation with nothing, without the world being empty of you on the first occasion. All Netcharu come into existence after you. Child combined is your body. Means all the aspects of nature in a particular area we call Inu, you call Heliopolis. Those make up your body. They are part of you. It says every Netcha joined in your body is your image. You emerge first. You inaugurated from the start. Amun, whose name is hidden from the Netcharu, oldest elder, more distinguished than these, Tatanin, who formed himself by himself as Ptah. The toes of his body are the 8. He appeared as Ra from noon so that he might rejuvenate. He sneezed as Atum, earth, tissue, and new station. He appears as his heart prompts, who through his power rules that is, who binds together for himself the kingship forever down to eternity, established as the sole Lord. Then it makes a prolific statement, not just mentioning those particular principles. It makes a prolific statement concerning energy. It says light. Okay. Hold on. Let me finish this last part, please. Let me finish this last part. It says light was his coming into existence on the first occasion, with all that existence stillness for all of him. He honked by voices, the great honker, coming into a land he created for himself while he was alone. So when they talk about the light, they're talking about energy being his first form. You know, energy is the first start of everything. Tom. Why you ain't tell me? You should have stopped me and told me. Let me. Okay.
Shalom, Yes, sir. Can you hear me? That wasn't my ringtone. No, that's my speaker, man. My Bluetooth speaker, bro. I don't got no ringtones, bro. All right. Man, peace and blessings to the brother, Ashar, Ausar for bringing this information. Man, we're gonna get into this thing, man, and we're gonna deal with the cultural setting of the Exodus story and how it and Kidney. And we're gonna talk about the omniscience, the omnipotence of Yah, of Yod Wahe, right? The God of Israel, according to Deuteronomy chapters 32, verses 8 and 9. Can, can can you hear me? Okay. So listen, I appreciate the brother reading from the coffin text. Those are beautiful reads. Those things are historical, and they do have some value. It's great literature to read, right? But every literature has a cultural setting, right? In the Bible, the Torah is no less than any other, right? For the people of ancient Israel, that cultural setting was the world of the polytheists that lived around them. And in the specific case of the Exodus narrative, the context was the world of ancient Kemet, right? And a stellar illustration of this process appears at the beginning of the Perishit Bo. This section of the Torah relates the last three of the plagues. And this specifically, and I'm going to bring out tonight, what shows Yahweh's or YHWH omnipotence, his power over the god Ra or Amun Ra. We're going to see this, right? And so, again, we're going to talk about in Exodus chapter 10. We're going to talk about the last three plagues, the last three of the plagues. We're going to talk about the locusts in Exodus chapter 10, verses 1 to 20. I'll bring that out. We're going to talk about the darkness in Exodus 10, chapters 21 through 29, and the death of the firstborn in Exodus 11, verses 1 through 10, chapters 12, 29 through 30. Each of which resonates with literary and religious motifs from the world of ancient Kemet. We can see these same plagues being spoken about later on in history in the Ipanur text. They talk about these various plagues of these gods, of the Hyksos, or those who came from a foreign land, or those who were in the foreign land, and how they were purged out of the land, and how Kemet was in fear because of these plagues that came upon them. We can read these things in the Ipanur text, right? But we're going to get into it, right? We're going to talk about something that Pharaoh's pond, right? And when I talk about this, you're going to see how Yah is much more powerful than any god, than the highest god or the highest deity of Kemet, right? So Pharaoh's pond, or Ra, or R-A-A, or R-A, or Ra, is before you. We're going to talk about that. Pharaoh's pond, Ra, is before you. In Exodus chapter 10 and 10, Pharaoh says to Moses and Aaron, during one of their ongoing exchanges, he says this. He says, Re u ki ra neged penekem. I'm not as I'm trying to read the meta here, so bear with me, right? And literally it says, see, for there is evil before you. Or more idiomatically, it says, look, you are up to no good. So by sheer coincidence, The Hebrew word Ra means evil. Evil is the name of the Egyptian sun god Ra, according to the Hebrew text, who's the head of the Kemetic pantheon. So in this bilingual pun, made possible by this linguistic coincidence, not only does Pharaoh deny the request of the Israelites to worship their God, but he also states it as it were that Ra is before you. This bold statement, right, resounds in the next three plagues. In plague number 8, right, which is the plague of the locusts, we see Yah's first omnipotence, his first power being exerted over that of Amun-Ra or Ra, right? Which is the locust which blots out the sun in midday. That's his first showing of power. Who's the greater God? He actually blots out Ra in the sky. We can read this in Exodus chapter 10 and 15. Number 9, the 9th plague, it talks about the darkness, which is most commonly understood as a sandstorm, which darkens the sky for 3 days. We can see this in Exodus chapter 10 and 22. And in the number 10 plague, we see the death of the firstborn at midnight, the darkest part of the night, when Ra is most distant from the shining, or from shining, or when we can see the sun is not as Ra, the illumination is much more distance than when the light is at its weakest. We can see this in Exodus chapter 12 and 29. We already see clearly in Exodus chapter 10, with the 8th and the 9th and the 10th plagues, we see the omnipotence, the power of Yahweh, the God of Israel, the protector of Israel, the deliverer of Israel in the Torah. We clearly see his power being exerted over the god Ra, this false deity of the enemy. We see him being thrown down. We see him being blotted out, the sun being blotted out by the locusts. We see the darkness or great sandstorm that darkens the skies for 3 days. Exodus chapter 10 and 22. And then when Ra is most distant from shining, right, which is the darkest part of the night, at midnight, we see the firstborn of Israel being slaughtered at the behest of Yahweh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, one and the same. You can read that, brother, in our literary text in Exodus 12 and 29. So given the cultural context of ancient Kemet, the perceptive ancient Hebrew reader would have realized the connection between Pharaoh's impudent statement in Exodus 10 and 10 and the subsequent narrative, with its focus on the worst possible chain of events for the Egyptian nation: the disappearance of their omnipresent sun god Ra. We clearly see he's not existent in Exodus chapter 10. Where is he? The brother eloquently read from his literary text, and he talked about the netters and the nature, and about nature and Kemet's reverence of things in nature and around him. But we're going to show that the Most High, or the Yahweh, is the God of nature. He controls nature. This is what we see in our text, right? So let's talk about the locust blotting out Ra, blotting out the sun. Some very interesting things here. The eye of the land and the eye of Ra. This is what we're going to talk about. So playing on this motif in Exodus chapter 10 to 15, the text states that the locust covered in Kol Haaretz. In the Hebrew, it means the eye of the whole land. This is Exodus 10 and 15. Let me read it to you again. The text actually states that the locust covered in Kol Haaretz, or the eye of the whole land. This is a rare idiom in Hebrew. but one very much at home in the Kemetic language. They understood what the eye of the whole land was and what it was to be. So this Hebrew phrase, most likely, is an adaptation of the Kemetic expression, and bear with me in reading the narrative here, is iter te ar, or iltara, or ta which literally means the eye of Ra. And this is used to designate the sun by extension of Kemet too. They use the same thing. Let me spell it out. It's IR.TR, right? And so literally this means the eye of Ra. So we clearly see this motif in Exodus 10 and 15, where the locusts have blotted out the whole eye of the whole land, clearly showing Yahweh's omnipotence in the land of Kemet. Now let's talk about some of the traditional familiarities with this Egyptian motif, right? So remarkably, we see that Hebrew tradition understood these passages within the Kemetic culture in their context, right? And so when we look at older Hebraic texts, like first in the Midrash, the Shir Ashirim, commenting on the song that we see, the song 1 in verse 12, it reads this. It says, he, talking about Pharaoh, said to him, I see through my astrology a star rising to meet you, and its name is Ra, and it is a sign of blood and killing. And we can read this, and the source for that is Grunhot, is page 15a, and Werthmeyer is page 41, if anybody wants a reference to read that. And so this interpretation in turn is quoted by Rashi, also a Jewish, a Hebrew rabbi, right, in his commentary in Exodus 10 and 10. And he basically says this: I heard in Midrash Agada, there is a star, and its name is Ra. Pharaoh said to them, I see through my astrology this star rising to meet you in the wilderness, and it is a sign of blood and killing. So in a rather extraordinary fashion, these Midristic sources understand Ra not only as evil, because we see Ra means evil in the Hebrew. So we not only see this, they understand it as evil, but also as the name of the Egyptian sun god. So there's a pun there. Or they understood it at least a star that Kemet referred to as Ra, or the sun, which is close enough for our present purposes in our understanding this conversation. So hence we may wish to render the passage as this: see for their evil Ra before you. So it is rather surprising that in rendering this phrase in Kol Haaretz, or the eye of the whole land, in the Targums Evangelicus, it departs from its typical strategy of word for word translations, and instead it translates it again to Em Shemsha de Ara, which is the eye of the son of the land, which is you can read this again in Exodus 10 and 5. And in both cases, Anquilius inserted the word Shemsha, which means son. So in the middle of the phrase, right, this is where he puts this for our understanding to know exactly what's being talked about, right? So there could be little doubt that the ancient Aramaic translator realized that the rare Hebrew expression refers to the sun. How such knowledge reached the author of the Targums, we cannot know for sure. We don't have the evidence of that, but we do know that these things were passed down, that there were oral traditions that were passed down. So when we read about the term, when we see the Hebrew term Ra, it just not doesn't also equate to only evil, but it also equates to the god Ra. So now we're going to talk about the darkness blotting out the sun, which is the 9th plague in Exodus chapter 10. And so it not only continues the attack on the sun god Ra, but it uses a literary trope found in Egyptian texts. The older of the two is the prophecy of Neferu, the words of an Egyptian sage who lived circa 2000 BCE, in discussing the upheaval which has befallen Kemet. The writer states, the sun disk is covered. It will not shine, allowing people to see. No one knows when midday occurs, for his shadow cannot be distinguished. This is from the prophecy of Nephilim, the words of the Egyptian sage. Again, 2000 BCE. We already see the understanding of the people of Kemet itself, of the weakened and the false nature and the false power and the subjugation of Ra to Yahweh. A more specific parallel occurs in a later demotic text known as Setna Chamwash, or Kahwah.
Time. Okay, shout out to Yarah bin Nazareth for dropping that science. We're going to hand this thing over now to Ausar MK. Ausar MK, this is your time to rebut. Ausar MK, let me make sure everything is all set on your side. Yes, sir. So, brother, whenever you're ready, you could begin your rebuttal, brother.
Testing 1, 2. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you, bro.
Okay. So first things first, and then we'll get to who actually has sway over who, which Necha has sway over his God, and who has the real power. First thing first, though, is it El or is it Yah? Because they continue to mix these up. So I'm going to move fast because we only have so much time. Canaanite religion refers to the group of ancient Semitic religions practiced by the Canaanites living in the ancient Levant from at least early Bronze Age to the first centuries of the Common Era. The Canaanite people, the real name of the Canaanites, religion was polytheistic and in some cases monolithic. How do you say that? It's difficult for me to say right now. But that happens later. That happens after your African culture gets away from it. So first is what you would consider to be polytheistic. Let's watch. A great number of deities in four-tier hierarchy headed by El and Asherah were worshipped by the followers of the Canaanite religion. So not Yahweh. Yah is not first even in his own circles. The Canaanite religion was practiced by people living in the ancient Levant throughout the Bronze Age and Iron Age until the excavation in 1928 of the city of Washamra, also known as Ugarit, in northern Syria, was discovered. Okay? The papyrus seems to have been preferred writing material for scribes at that time, unlike documents found in Egypt. Ancient papyrus in the Levant have often simply decayed from exposures to the humid Mediterranean climate, unlike Egypt. So you can see whose side nature is truly on. And we'll get deeper into that in a minute. As a result, the accounts in the Bible became the primary sources of information of ancient Canaanite religion. Supplementing the biblical accounts, several secondary and tertiary Greek sources have survived, including Lucian of Samosata, treatise De Syria, the Syrian god of 2nd century, and fragments of the Phoenician history. A recent study of the Ugaritic material has uncovered additional information about the Canaanite religion, which we're going to get into now. The Canaanite religion shows the clear influence of Mesopotamian and Egyptian religious practices, like other peoples, on the ancient Near East, the Canaanites. So anybody thinking that Yah would be over Ra would be silly. But the losers tend to demonize those who are above them. So of course, after Egypt puts foot in your hiney, Ra becomes a bad word in your language. Absolutely. Deities such as Baal, Enoch, and El, kings, also played an important religious role, and in certain ceremonies, such as the sacred marriage of the New Year festival, Canaanites may have revered their kings as gods. Sounds like Kemet to me. Yah has no sway at this time. According to the pantheon, known in Ugarit as Elohim, or what you call Elohim now, or the children of El, compare the biblical sons of God, the creator, called El, fathered the other deities. So El is first, not Yah. In the Greek sources, he was married to Beirut. He had a wife. The pantheon was supposedly obtained by Philo of Byblos from Beirut. And the marriage of the deity with the city seems to have biblical parallels with the stories of the link Melkart with Tyre, Yahweh with Jerusalem, and Tanit and Baal Haman with Carthage. So now you know your history, as the God whose priest was Melchizedek, king of Salem. The Arslan Tash inscription suggests that each of the 70 sons of El Elyon was bound to their people by a covenant. Thus Khosan, who translates this, the Eternal One, Olam, has made a covenant oath with us. Asherah has made a pact with us, and all the sons of El and the great council of all the holy ones, Kadesh, with oaths of heaven and ancient earth. That means that El is giving command to Yah. Let's go further. Philo states that the union of El Elyon and his consort resulted in the birth of Uranus and Ge in Greek. This closely parallels the opening verse of the Hebrew Bible, Genesis. In the beginning, God Elohim created the heavens. There's almost no agreement on the origins of Yahweh. His name is not attested other than among the Israelites. It seems not to have any reasonable etymology. Eyah Asher Eyah, or I am that I am. You can find that in the Egyptian text where Ra tells Sekhmet to take him above the skies. So they're stealing. You're stealing. It appears to be late theological gloss invented to explain Yahweh's name at the time when the meaning had been lost. He does not appear to have been a Canaanite god. Although the Israelites were originally Canaanites, the head of the Canaanite pantheon was El. And one theory holds that the word Yahweh is based on the Hebrew root YHWH, meaning cause to exist, as a shortened form of the phrase El Du Yahweh Sabiat. El, who creates the host, meaning the heavenly host accompanying El, has marched beside the earthly armies of Israel. So this is made up stuff later, and it's given to him by El. The oldest plausible recorded occurrence of Yahweh is a place name, land of Shasu Yahweh, in an Egyptian inscription from the time of Amenhotep III. The Shashu being the nomads from the Midian idiom, from the Midian and Edom in northern Arabia. So now, the first place you see this term, Yahweh, is when Egypt has you as a slave, has you bonded. So let's talk about the power of Ra and what happened when Yahweh came up against Ra in real life, not a biblical scripture. So the Sasu, who are Yahuwah, are in separate tribes. Let me give them to you. There's a few of them. I'll just give you a few. There's Shashu Reuben, there's Shashu Yahuwah, there's a few different Shashu groups. Shashu Weber, Shashu Sarir, but the main one is Shashu Yahweh. And this is the earliest known reference of his name is him being enslaved by Egypt. And so the first thing that comes out our brother's mouth is that Ra has been degraded to. But the story he takes from is from the famine stela in Egypt, copied and put in the Bible to make Yahweh seem powerful. But we know Yahweh didn't even have power until El gave him dominion over Israel. So he's second in his own circle, and he's second to Ra. Let's look. Two Egyptian texts, one dated dated on the period of Amenhotep III, 14th century BCE. The other, the age of Ramses II, 13th century BCE, refer to Yahu in the land of Sashu nomads, in which Yahu is a toponym. And if you look it up, the Battle of Kadesh, you can see these Sasu spies getting their heinies beat with sticks to tell the truth, because they don't tell the truth. And when you don't tell the truth, you get the whooping. It's that simple. Yahweh is evil. We're going to get to that as well, but let's go somewhere else. Let's go somewhere else. We have another testimony to the power of Ra in the tomb of Beniyah. Beniyah was someone who came over to Egypt for sanctuary.
1 minute left.
Okay, and in his sanctuary, instead of using his Israelite name later, he changes it to Paheka Amen, which is an option in ancient Kemet when you die. But instead of changing it, you can look up his stela. It says, an offering which the king gives to Amen, Lord of the thrones of the two lands, Raheru and Marquette Ausar, first of the Westerners on his mountain, Jehudi, representative of Ra, the great this, that, the other, Beniyah, giving offerings to Ausar, giving offerings to Amen. Instead of using his Israelite name, he came to Paheka Amen, and he wanted to be known as Paheka Amen. It says, born of inertia, justified, and born of the mistress of the house of Cherukjak, that's his mother, justified. I am Beniyah, justified by the great nature called Paheka Amen.
So time. All right, shout out to Ausar M. Kyle. We're going to hand this thing over now to Yarah bin Nazareth. Yarah bin Nazareth, we're going to set the timer for 7 minutes. Whenever you're ready, you can begin your rebuttal, brother.
Yeah, again, see, when you start talking to these cats and they want to start talking about the Israelites with the Canaanites, then I can start really laughing at their folly and their misunderstanding and their lack of understanding of history, how they don't really study, right? So let's get into the understanding of who this El God that the Canaanites were actually worshiping. And let's see if it's the same El Elyon that the Israelites deemed as the Most High. Let's talk about that really quickly. And let me pull out some motifs real quick for you guys to understand. Let's talk about in Kemet, we have the understanding of Ka or Ka, right? If you really want to get into the language, that word Ka is bull, B-U-L-L, or K-A-U, or cow, or what we understand today as cow, C-O-W, right? And it stood for power, strength, fertility, power of action in the world, to create from consciousness, self, soul, spirit, essence, etc., of who we are, aspiring and rising up to higher consciousness. This is what they understood the Ka to be, to reference of a bull. And when you look at the Ka in the hieroglyphs, it looks like two arms, a right arm and a left arm that are extended upward in a U shape, and it's placed together. These two arms are placed together, and it sort of gives you like the motif of these bull horns, because that's what it's referring to. See, the Canaanite God was not the same God that the Israelites worshiped. They actually worshiped the god Torel or Thorel in some translations. It is this bull god. And we're going to get into it and we're going to break it down. This is not the deity that the Israelites worship. Let's put that to rest. They didn't worship a bull god. The moment that we see calf worship brought into the scripture, we see it's always condemned by the Most High. Let's deal with it for a little bit, right? Exodus 32, 3 and 4. And all the people break off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron, and he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with a graven tool, after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, these be thy God. And he said, these be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. We know what happens out of that story. Moses comes down and he sees this abomination of this golden calf. Why? Because the people that have come out of Kemet with him are still worshiping these Kemetic gods. They have not even made it into Canaan land as of yet. But you still see the same bull motif, or some people refer to it as Hathor, right? We're going to show you this motif that this is the deity that the Canaanites were worshiping and that Kemet was worshiping. This goes all the way back to the Sumerian culture. We see these motifs of this bull being worshipped. You see this spoken of throughout the scriptures as an abomination, right? It says in 1 Kings, talks about another evil king, 12:28-29, whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold and said unto them, it is too much for you to go up Jerusalem. Behold, O God, O Israel, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. And he said, one in Bethel and one in Dan. These things were considered an abomination in the scriptures. An abomination. So what we see is these bronze figures, and let's talk about the Apis bull, right? Whenever an Apis bull died in the city of Memphis, it was embalmed and mummified. Each bull had his own huge sarcophagus, and his birth and death were recorded and carved onto the walls. After the Israelites were delivered from Egypt, Moses came down from the mountain and found Aaron had set up a golden calf of young bulls that the people might worship their God in this form. When the northern kingdom of Israel divided from the brothers in the south, Jeroboam introduced bull worship and set up two idols. Clearly, the scriptures refer to these things as idols. So these are not Israelite deities. These are Kemetic and Canaanite deities. And so when we get into Canaan, if you do your research, you'll see that they worship the god Thorel. This is the same thing what we see in the Spanish language. We see how this Apis and this bull worship has translated throughout many cultures. Right? In the Spanish, they say El Toro, or the god bull, or the bull god. These are not motifs we see of Yahweh. These are not motifs we see of Israelites. It's faulty worship. So let's get into some more things. Let's get back into the scriptures, right? So death of the firstborn in ancient Egyptian myth talks about the 10 plagues again. The death of the firstborn, Egyptians at midnight, also as Egyptian parallels, though they are much more of an enigmatic nature, as well as known, ancient Egypt had a well-developed funerary cult, including funerary texts that span the various epochs from the Old Kingdom, the Middle Kingdom, and the New Kingdom. The funerary texts of the Old Kingdom period were written on the walls of the pyramids themselves, and hence are called the pyramid texts. The following passage, listen to this, appears on the walls of the pyramids of Unis, circa 2350 BCE, and Teti, 2320 BCE, both at Saqqara. It is the king who will be judged with whose name is hidden on this day of the slaying of the firstborn. It's talking about the slaying of the eldest. Shemshwa, SMSW. During the Middle Kingdom period, Egyptian scribes wrote the funerary text on wooden coffins, and his this collective group is called the coffin text. On two coffins, both found at Asherah, ASYUT, we read, I am he who will be judged with him whose name is hidden on this night of the slaying of the firstborn. On 4 other coffins, 2 found at Saqqara, 2 found at El Bashar, we read, this night of the slaying of the firstborn, this day of the slaying of the firstborn. In these cases, the word for firstborn is Wr, W-R-W, literally meaning big, great, in the plural with the deity determinative following it, suggesting that the expression refers to gods in some way. We know that's what determinatives do when we read in the hieroglyphics. This contrasts with the first source, which uses the word Shemshah, which means the eldest, with no determinative following. So here's an obscure reference. Make a note of this. We know very little about this day of the slaying of the firstborn, or this night of the slaying of the firstborn, or the composite version with both night and day in the second of the coffin text that I mentioned above. But clearly this motif meant something to the ancient Egyptians. I wonder why. Moreover, apparently this motif was also known to the ancient Israelites, and it became part of the tradition relating to the Exodus from Kemet, not only in Exodus 12, but in Psalms 78 and 51, Psalms 105 and 36 as well. This assimilation of the Egyptian motif into various biblical compositions is clear despite the chronological gap of a millennium or so between the coffin text dated circa 2000 BCE and the Exodus narrative, which in my view, my personal view, achieved its more or less a canonical form in 1000 BCE. Perhaps because of the depth of the tradition in ancient Egypt, it remained well known for a millennium, even though it is not attested in any extant text from a later period. This is important, people. Regardless of how this echoes of a myth is to be understood, the following conclusion of the late Israeli Egyptian Egyptologist Mordecai Galuli remains true. These passages are strong evidence that a mythological tale, or one that may have been true, once circulated, in which some or all of the firstborn in Egypt, whether gods, mortals, or animals, were slain on a certain day or night. This is written in coffin texts and pyramid texts. Such a myth or truth may very likely lie in the background of the biblical account of the Exodus. Right? So understanding Kemet and understanding the Torah. So Exodus 12:12 states that God performs judgment not only against the Egyptian people, but also against U, Bel, Ka, Eloi, Mizarim, and which reads, and against all the gods of Egypt. Exodus 12:12. So when we look at the analysis of the plagues and the narrative within broader Egyptian culture, it returns us to the explicit statement in the Bible itself and helps us to uncover the meaning and implications. So my brother said these things were stolen. We understand how Egyptian funerary processes work. Once the king was involved in the process of the funerary things took place, the tombs were sealed. They were sealed and hidden, and many of those who worked or those who were supposed to go with this pharaoh or this nobleman in the afterlife were buried alive with them as well. And then the tombs would be hidden, especially in the Valley of the Kings. Out of all of the kings of pharaohs that we know that existed, according to the kings list, only 75 of those tombs have been found. Why? Because they were hidden. Now you have to explain to us, if you claim that the Bible was plagiarized, how and where and when did they go in the future and copy these texts? Could not have occurred.
All right. What we're going to do now is we're going to do a 15-minute rapid fire round. A 15-minute rapid fire round. We could begin with Yarah asking Ausar MK the first question.
All right, brother Ausar, how you doing, man?
I'm the top fan. How you?
Man, peace, shalom to you, man. Again, man, I just wanted to pose a question to you where I sort of kind of ended off with. Is that you made a statement. You made several statements. I'm going to try to focus in one. You claim that maybe or possibly the biblical text, right, that it may have been plagiarized from Kemet, right, or some pyramid text or some coffin text or Tyria text. Is that your understanding?
That some of the texts from the Bible are plagiarized?
Yes. Yeah. Okay, from Kemet, right? Is it not your understanding that these tombs that were sealed at the time of the pharaoh's death or the noble person's death or the queen's death, that these tombs were sealed and they were hidden? Specifically, we see this in the Valley of the Kings. And we see very little literature, right, that is found well into after the 1600s, right? Most importantly, if you read E. Wallace Budge, or if you even read from Gerald Massey, these writings, these things, a lot of these translations that we find, John Henry Breaston, those white Egyptologists, however, they're the ones that went in there and brought that information out of there. We see that these things weren't even discovered until maybe late mid-1600s, going well into the 1800s. We know the King James Version Bible itself was written in 1609. We know that the Torah, we can date that back as early as 950 BCE, even though I believe it's a lot earlier, right? We can even go and look at Paul's letters, 40, 50 AD, that he mentions these types of things. I'm trying to get from you where you can tell me when and where did these people who you claim the Bible was plagiarized, how did they have access to these things that you claim that they plagiarized from, if these things were sealed for thousands of years and weren't discovered until well after their time in the writing of the biblical text?
Well, kind of what you say is not true. So let's start with the first part, right, family? The first part would be this. You say that they were hidden, like tucked away, as if no one had access to the book of the soul, or as if different people traveling, like Ausar Khan didn't go over and teach Persians, as if this information wasn't spread around the world, and as if the Greeks don't have a tax record with us paying for Amun. As I had mentioned earlier, Zeus was set up as Amun was set up in ancient Kemet. So it's not that these things were hidden. I don't know where everybody gets this hiddenness from. Second, you say that these the Egyptologists, who, if no one knows, these are people paid for by the churches to find out where the original scriptures of the Bible come from. James H. Blessed is funded by several preachers, for those who don't know. So none of this is hidden information. It's just that it pretty much started to go out of use due to persecution from guys like Clement of Alexandria, who started forcing people into a different religion, which is why you have several Coptic churches in Ethiopia, etc. Different things of that nature, when you're facing persecution, will take place. But when we talk about the copying, all we have to do is pull up some literature. You mentioned Psalms. Let's go Psalms 104, Hymn to Adi. Let's do 9 lines. It says, O soul God, O soul nature, beside whom there is none. Psalms 104 says, O Yahweh, my God, you are very great. Hymn to Aten, it says, how many are your deeds? You made the earth as you wish. You alone, all people, herds, and flocks. Psalm 104, 2. O Yahweh, how many fold are your works? In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. 3. Hymn to Aten, when you set in western light land, earth is in darkness as if in death. Psalm 104, 3. You make darkness, and it is in night when all the animals of the forest come creeping out. Hymn to Aten 4. Every lion comes from his den. Psalm 104. The young lions roar for their prey when the sun rises. They withdraw and lie down in their dens. Hymn to Aten 5. When you have dawn, they live. When you set, they die. Psalm 104. When you hide your face, they are dismayed. When you take away their breath, they die. Hymn to Aten 6. You set every man in his place. You supply their needs. Everyone has his food. Psalm 104, 6. These all look to you to give them their food in due season. Number 7. We're almost done, only 3 more. The fish in the river dart before you. Your waves are in the midst of the sea. Psalm 104, 7. Yonder is the sea, great and wide. Creeping things, innumerable, are there. 8. In the Aten. Birds fly from their nests, their wings greeting your car, your spirit. Ausar is the spirit. We worship the spirit. That's the bull they talk about. Psalm 104. By the streams of the birds of the air have their habitation. They sing among the branches. Last one, Hymn to Aten 9. He makes waves on the mountain like the sea to drench their fields and their towns. Psalm 104. You make springs gush forth in the valleys. They flow between the hills. The trees of Yarah are watered abundantly. If that's not copying, brother, I said, if that's not copying, my brother, we got a problem. Because you're too close. Your God's borrowing too many words from ancient Kemet. He did it to you again. Chapter 125 of your Bible, when you go into what is it? Not Leviticus, the other hymn, I gotta remember it. When you go into hell, the hell verse, he copied it damn near word for word. And the only bad part about that is your priest left you no escape from the hellfire. All they had to do was read, spell 63A and 63B from the hymn of coming forth by day. It says this, it says, I am the equipped oar with which Ra is rolled when the old ones are rolled, and the efflux of Ausar is upraised at the lake of flames, which does not burn. I have climbed in the sunshine, O canoe, who is in charge of which. Come, cut away the bonds from him who travels on this road on which I have ascended. If you were of Ra, if you were in the light of Ra, you would have no problem dealing with the hellfire. But your priests were so disrespectful, they didn't even leave you that. rapid fire, so now I gotta ask you a question, huh? All right. So El clearly comes before Yah. Yah is a secondary God. But you guys hang on to Yah, knowing that you come from the Shasu. But Jesus makes a powerful statement. Pardon me, my voice is all over the place tonight. Jesus makes a powerful statement to the Canaanite woman. He says, shall I give the food of the children of Israel to the dogs? So my question is pretty simple, right? Because he says this, is Matthew 15:21 through 28 for anybody at home with your Bible. It says, and behold, the woman of Canaan came out of the same coast and cried unto him, saying, have mercy on me, O Lord, you son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with the devil. But he answered her not a word. And his disciples came and besought him, saying, send her away, she cry after us. But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Then came she and worshipped him, saying, Lord, help me. But he answered and said, it is not meet to take the children's bread and cast it to the dogs. So he's calling her a female puppy. And it's because she's a Canaanite, not an Israelite. Yet you claim to descend from Canaanites with this Canaanite religion, yet you hold on to Israel. But your Lord and Savior said you're not a Canaanite. So which one is it? Do you listen to Jesus or this religion that you guys have come into with the mixture of the Canaanite and the Israelite? Let me make a simpler question for you in case that's kind of too big.
I mean, that's fine. My mic is muted.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's fine. No, I mean, it's simple enough. You clearly see what most of us who hold the Torah to heart has always said. Hell no, we are not Canaanites. I'll argue that with you to the death. You just read it. Christ being one of the greatest Torah teachers, if actually the greatest Torah teacher, clearly understood the law and the history. The Hamashiach, who I believe is the Son of the Most High. So he clearly says in truth, as you just read, brother, and I'm glad you so eloquently brought that out. We are not of the Canaanite stock. But if you continue to read in that chapter, you'll see where the one who came to save the entire world yet had mercy on those. Even though he came to the lost sheep of Israel, clearly he made a distinction that she was not of the lost sheep of Israel. But yet he had mercy upon her. So as you see, brother, no, Christ claimed not to be a Canaanite. And clearly he did not worship a Canaanite deity. As I told you before, study. You'll clearly see the bull motifs. If you look on the Narmer palette, you'll clearly see these bull motifs. The 4 bull motifs on the Narmer palette. This horned bull, which they later translate into the El deity of the Canaanite people. We see this thing in Kemet as well, the worshiping of the Apis bull. We see this in the going forward. The Canaanites, they worship Thor-El, or the bull god. I had a discussion with a brother the other night. We were talking about how even when you study the word Titan, the word Titan is Torah or bull. You see it in the Greek motifs. You often see the motifs of Zeus becoming a bull as he interacts with people in their Greek mythology. That is not the deity of the Israelite people. It is clearly Canaanite. It is clearly Greek. It is clearly Kemetic belief in this bull god. El was nothing more than a misnomer. Just as some will tell you, well, Allah means God. you will probably say Ra means the Most High, or Amun Ra means the Most High. But we're clearly not talking about the same deity here. And don't conflate languages to have the same meanings. We clearly see this in the Hebrew, in the Paleo Hebrew, the Proto-Canaanite script. We see that they borrowed 22 symbols or hieroglyphs from the Meta-Nectar and brought those symbols into their language, in the Proto-Sinaitic languages. But the meanings are not the same. So just because you see something or it sounds, you have a phonetic, and this is the issue, you have a phonetic conflation, or you have something that phonetically sounds the same that you automatically equate it to be the same meaning. That is just not true. But let's get back to this understanding of plagiarism really quick, and then I'm going to turn it over. The word plagiarism is not appropriate in this context, brother. When you read from Psalms and you read so beautifully. Plagiarism implies that an author read another work, copied the ideas or opinions that are not common knowledge or widely accepted academic consensus, and then they fail to cite the source. Cultural borrowing, shared mythology, historical fiction, and the retelling of widely accepted history are not plagiarism, brother. Especially in the context of literature that existed before anything resembling any copyright laws. What we understand to be copywritten or what you understand to be plagiarized. Here's the key. There is no extant source for the vast majority of the Bible. There's no extant source. There's no earlier literary source, for example, that describes a boy inspiring an army by using a slingshot to kill a giant in a single combat. There's no earlier literature source that describes a prophet's apprentice watching the amazement as his master is carried away in a fiery chariot. There's no early literary source that says the bones which thou hast broken shall be mended. No one puts new wine in old wineskins, or a virgin shall conceive and bear a son. That's another lie that Chris Harris likes to tell.
All right, time. All right. So, shout out to both debaters. This was a very interesting impromptu debate. We're gonna end it for right now, family. So I know you guys just tuned in kind of late. Y'all didn't catch the first half of it, so maybe y'all could look into recording. Matter of fact, I think that we might have to do something in the near future with these two debaters, because it was a very interesting dialogue. And Yarah, I'm telling you, Yarah, kind of did this off the fly. And, he sounded pretty, you know what I'm saying? Made a solid.
He had to come right in the mid.
His car fell off. I guess that was why he.
What I tell you, so.
YHWH must have did that.
They don't know, so they don't know about it.
Yeah, so all right, brother, you're back on, bro.
Okay. Yeah, respect to my brother Yarah. Though I think I won. He think he won. But respect to him for taking it on the fly. The other brother had pulled out. For everybody watching, I'm gonna urge you to go check out the text, because that's about as copywritten as it gets in ancient times. But there's a lot of texts, there's a lot of things that we didn't mention concerning copying, which would be a whole nother diadem, for a different date. But respect to the brother for taking the battle. Imhotep for everybody who listened. Amun-Ra's Lord. Y'all know what it is. And Amun-Ra, even to the atheist, is Lord. Why? Because Amun is all things in your universe. He is your universe and the outside of it. So Amun-Ra is the term we use for all things that are hidden, that we don't know, that we do know. Ra would be the seen things. Amun would be those hidden things.
All right.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to close this thing out for now, family. We'll see you guys tomorrow. It will be Orthodox Moor going up against Gideon Israel. So make sure you tune into that, family. Until next time, family. This is the Solar Vision Debate League, man. Peace.
Man, Shabbat Shalom. Death to Amun Ra.